When you go outside for nature study, there are so many things you could take with you to help. You see a lot of different options as to, oh, this equipment will help you do this, and this equipment is necessary. It can be very overwhelming and confusing. Wouldn't it be great if we could just talk to somebody who has done nature study for many years and has narrowed it down to say, these are the tools that are most helpful? Well, we're going to do that today. We're going to talk with Karen Smith, who has decades of experience doing nature study, and she's going to tell us her favorite nature study tools. Welcome to the Simply Charlotte Mason podcast. I'm Sonya Schaefer. Today, Karen Smith is joining us. Karen, it's good to have you back. We want to talk about nature study tools. And when I think of tools, I'm thinking, I get this mental picture of hauling a trailer full of equipment with you as you try to go down the path. It's like, no, wait, the trailer's in the parking lot. We need to take it back there. What is really the best kinds of tools to take with us? Is it just our notebook? What are your favorite tools?
Let's start with the ones that are handy to have, but maybe not totally necessary to have with you when you are in the field.
So these are some of your favorites, but we can pick and choose if we need to.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
So a magnifying glass, a very basic tool. They come in all different sizes and powers, magnification powers. Choose ones that fit your family. Younger kids, I recommend that you get ones that have larger lenses in them, so it's easier for your child to use. There are pocket-sized ones that have multiple lenses that you can stack, so you can change your magnification.
And what kinds of things would you use that for? I mean, I know it makes something bigger, but give me an example in nature. What would you use it for?
Maybe your child wants to look at an ant. That's a good thing that they can magnify. Young kids like to magnify anything because it's a very new perspective for them, and it makes things more interesting. Sometimes just seeing something from a different perspective can help you look at it more carefully. Mm-hmm. Maybe you see, the bug on the flower and you go, oh yeah, it's a bee. But have you looked at it with a magnifying glass to see more of the detail on that bee's body?
And you could see more closely what it's actually doing there.
Yes. So different things like that. They're easy to carry. It's probably something you might want to bring with you every time.
Okay.
Pocket ones obviously will fit in your pocket, but even the larger ones for young children are not that large to carry.
Yeah, and not that heavy either.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Good. So magnifying glass, okay. Yes. What else?
Field guides.
You always say field guides.
I do, because field guides are so important. They help us identify things, but they don't just help us to know what we're looking at. They help us to look at it in greater detail, because you need to know certain things about what you're trying to identify in order to use the field guide. So you're learning more about it, the thing that you are trying to identify.
Just because of the process of trying to find it in the field guide.
I like ones that have photographs.
Okay.
And so as you are looking through those photographs, trying to find the thing that you are looking at and trying to identify, you will also see things that are similar to that. And looking through a field guide helps you to determine and think more carefully about what makes what I'm looking at different from the other things here.
Yeah.
What are the similarities? So you're learning along the way. You're gaining knowledge about things that you're not even looking at.
Which it sounds like that's an
sense.
advantage you don't get by using a nature study app.
Correct. And field guides will usually, once you identify it, you go to its entry, where all the writing is, and they will usually give you some other general information about that item too. Its size, its habits, if it's a flower, when it blooms, an insect, where they're most prominent, that sort of a thing that you don't get when you just take a picture and identify it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I know we did a previous episode on your favorite nature field guides. Mm-hmm. Can you just name a couple of your favorites now? I mean, we'll leave a link to that episode,
yes.
But just whet our appetite here. What are a couple of your favorites?
Audubon's are very good, particularly for people who are just beginning. They're easy to use.
And are those only for birds?
No, they're for everything. Birds, insects, butterflies, mushrooms, rocks, you name it, they have it.
Whole gamut. Okay.
Yes.
So Audubon.
National Wildlife Federation has some that are very nice, and so does Princeton. So those are the ones that I find that I use the most. You may just be beginning, and that may be overwhelming for you to have one of those. That's a full-size field guide.
Well, I've heard that you should get your regional ones.
Many people do because that's where they are comfortable starting. It's not overwhelming to them. If you start there, I recommend that once you get the hang of using it and you're comfortable with it, move up to a full field guide, because plants and insects and birds don't always know what region they're supposed to be in.
That's true. They cross the boundaries sometimes.
And because those are a more limited field guide, they tend to just have the most common things that are in your area. So you may find something that lives in your area that's not in your field guide because it's not as common.
Okay.
And made the cut for the field guide type thing.
So I'm getting a picture now, though, of hauling my 5-volume set of field guides out into the field with me. Is that what you do?
No, I leave mine at home.
You do?
I do. I use them at home.
How does that work?
So, things that you can do as you're doing drawings, make sure that you note down features of whatever you're looking at that will help you to identify it.
Like size,
Yes.
things you can't capture in a drawing, maybe.
Looking in your field guides ahead of time when you're at home, browse through them. There's information in there on each one on what you need to identify things, the different features. Look through those so you're familiar with those. So if you see a bird, you know you're going to look at the color and the size and the beak size, and does it have an eye stripe or a different colored cap on its head, and become familiar with the terminology so when you are using your field guide, you know what it's asking for. So when you're in the field, you can take that picture, but not to identify it right then, but you can use that picture for reference later. You can jot down some notes in a notebook or do a nice careful drawing. Depends on what you're looking at. Some things just don't hold still for you to do a good drawing.
Yeah, well, and it wouldn't hold still for you to leaf through your field guide in the field. So you capture what it is in the field, and then when you get home, you can
use your field guides
check
later.
your field guide. Nice,
Yes.
nice.
Yes. So that's field guides.
Okay.
You don't have to bring them with you. You never know which one you might need when you're in the field, especially if you're like me and nature studies usually spur of the moment. And so you're not going to bring your whole library with you. Binoculars can be handy things in the field. They help you to see things that are way up in the tops of the trees. My daughter looks at birds that like to hang out in the tops of the trees. My husband uses them to look at mushrooms that are in trees that he can't get to, and he doesn't want to go stomping through the undergrowth until he knows he really wants that mushroom. So if he can identify it from a distance, that's a good thing. Sometimes you're in a location where you can't get closer to what you're looking at. So maybe you're on one side of a river and there's something on the other side you want to see. Binoculars are great for that. They're also good for looking at things that you don't want to get too close to, like maybe a wasp nest.
That's a good point. Now, I know we did an episode on choosing and using binoculars, so we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yes. And bringing binoculars in the field with you, obviously, you're going to use them in the field.
Yeah.
Sometimes I bring mine, sometimes I don't. It just depends on if I want to carry them or not.
I have that thing hanging around your neck.
Yes. But there are harnesses that you can get for at least some of them that instead of the weight on your neck, it's on your shoulders and your back. And it's much more comfortable and
nice.
Makes it easy to use your binoculars in that way.
Now, those are a more expensive item, and they come in a range of prices, I'm
Yes.
sure. But I think that would make a good wish list for Christmas gifts for your family.
I would think so. A nice pair of binoculars as a family gift would be a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, your other family members could pool and give it as a gift to your whole family, and boom, you're done.
Yes.
I love that idea.
Good thing.
All right, so binoculars in the field, magnifying glass in the field, field guides at home. What else do we
Yes.
have?
Microscopes.
Okay, now I'm picturing this big, sensitive, fragile glass microscope, microscope, yeah. Microscope, I get the two confused. Microscope that we used in high school biology. And it's like, carry it carefully, Joey. Don't drop it as we cross the bridge. I mean,
What, Mom?
Yeah. Why are we taking a microscope and I'm assuming we're taking it in the field? Tell me more about this choice.
There are different types of microscopes. I would not take a full-size one in the field. I have one of those at home for looking at things. But in the field, you can take a pocket microscope. It won't be as powerful, but you can still see some microscopic things with it, or even use it as a magnifying glass if you have something that you just want to set it on. Magnifying glasses are handheld.
Yes.
Give you a bigger viewing area. So they're great for seeing, insects up close or something like that. Pocket microscopes are good for things that don't run away, that you can set the
Like
microscope right on
leaves
top
or-
of a leaf or maybe a flower bud or a rock.
Do you have to put them on a
Things
little
like that.
slide?
No, you don't. You just set the microscope right on top of it.
So if both a magnifying glass and a microscope enlarge the item, you said the magnifying glass is good for things that move or things you need a wider
Yes.
field of vision.
Yes.
And then the microscope, so you could use that in the field
Yes.
for
Again, it's a
a
pocket-sized
specific
one,
thing.
so-
What kind of magnification do you need on that microscope, though?
I can't remember what mine is. I want to say there are ones that go up to 100 times.
Wow.
So you can see microscopic things with them
That you could not see with the
that
magnifying
you cannot
glass.
see with a magnifying glass. Yes.
But you keep yours at home, except for you have your pocket microscope
I
with
have a
you.
pocket microscope,
But
but
the
the
big
full
one's at
size I
home.
leave at home.
And do you think that's really necessary, or is that just a favorite thing you have and people can pick and choose?
It's not, neither one of them are really necessary, but for some kids it gets them more interested.
Yeah.
I can see the surface of it, Mom, but what if I look at it closer? That's you never know what's going to hook your child into nature study. And so having some of those tools available can sometimes be the thing that gets your child interested.
That's a good point.
A pocket one, again, is very easy to take in the field. Full size, leave at home if you want one. They're usually something that you will have if your child does high school biology. But you can always borrow one from a friend or
put it on your
whatever,
wish
you know.
list.
But of course,
Yeah.
I have one.
Of course you do. You
Because-
probably have a whole series of them.
Just one. Just one, and I do use it. So
Okay, great. What else? What other tools would you recommend?
a camera.
We have talked about taking pictures. Yeah, that's true.
Yes. So taking pictures of things when you're in the field, not just to identify it right then and there, but so that you can reference that picture later for identification purposes. But you can also have a record of your nature walk outside of your nature journal. Some kids don't like to draw. I mean, we're all different.
Yeah.
Some really like to draw, and some
It's
Don't-
just frustrating and it sours the whole experience.
give them a camera. Not just to snap a quick picture, but to take pictures from different angles and pictures of different features so that they're still looking closely at it, but then they also have those different pictures to put together as a record of what they saw.
And they could add their notes of what they
Yes.
observed about its habits and
Yes.
where it was and all that. I like that idea. So those items are things we need to purchase, we need to collect, maybe over
The-
time.
and they're not necessarily something that is convenient to take with you for nature study. They might be
Right.
something you have to leave at home. So those, pick and choose what fits your family budget, what fits your children and their interest in nature. Don't go buy a pair of binoculars or a full-size microscope if nobody's going to use them.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Now, do you have other tools that you would recommend that are not quite so?
Expensive?
I'm not going to say expensive. I was just thinking, let's not say expensive.
Hefty? You wouldn't want to carry on the field?
Not
Yes.
quite so intimidating, shall we say?
Yes, more common household items.
Things we might just have laying around that we
Yes.
can grab and go.
Yes, a bucket.
A bucket
Bucket is a great nature study tool.
for what?
Well, you can carry things in it and you can put things in it to observe. So my kids, I don't know about your children, but every place we went, my kids had to collect rocks.
Ah,
Buckets are great for carrying those rocks.
I'm going to let the kid carry that heavy bucket.
Well, of course.
they're your rocks, kid. You're carrying the
They're
bucket.
the ones who have the most energy. Let them carry them.
Right.
Buckets are also great for putting things that you would find in water in. So minnows, tadpoles, some aquatic insects, that type of a thing. Put a little bit of water in your bucket, dump them in, you can look at them. Now they're contained and
Yeah.
not, swimming and running all over the
Away
surface of
from you.
of a pond or a stream or something like that. And so you can contain them. When you're done, just dump them back in.
Nice.
So great thing for that. Buckets are wonderful. To go with a bucket, you might like a net. So
Oh,
you can
yes.
catch those things that you want to observe. Try and find a more all-purpose net. There are ones that you can get for using in water and ones that you can get for using like in grass and whatever to catch insects.
Yes.
But if you can find one that can be used for both, that will serve you well for both of them. And there are nets out there that you can do with both.
Okay.
Just look for one that doesn't have, large holes and it has
Yes.
smaller holes, but you can move it through the water. Large enough holes that you can move it through the water,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
small enough that things aren't going to get away.
Okay. Good.
So a net is a great thing. It's
Bucket
also
and a
lightweight
net.
to carry. So,
Yeah.
give it to your child. Here, we're going to use this net today. You can carry it. It's lightweight. A pocket knife.
A pocket knife.
Yes. There are things that you might want to cut open. There are things that you might need to use the pocket knife for. It's a handy tool to have with you. So bring a pocket knife.
Okay. Yeah.
You might want to cut open a piece of fruit or a seed just to see what's inside.
Yes. Good point.
Different things like that.
Yes.
Plastic containers. Small plastic containers. Clear.
Are we talking like zip top bags?
Those can be useful, but you want something that's hard-sided.
Oh, okay.
So the not fully disposable, you can use them several times, plastic food containers
Like for leftovers?
for leftovers.
Okay.
Maybe they're containers, maybe they're deli containers.
Okay.
Something like that would work very well, as long as it's got a lid that fits tightly onto it. You want smaller is better because it's easier to use when you're catching those insects.
How
you
would
can
you
take the
do
lid
that?
and the container, and you
In
can
two
come
hands.
up onto the insect and
Just capture it between
capture
the
it
two.
between them. Most of the time, they'll fly right into the container. So very useful thing
So
to
I'm
have.
assuming the container should be transparent.
Yes.
But it doesn't matter about the lid, I would think. You can just
No,
whatever,
if you have a transparent lid, that'll make it easier for you to look down into the container to see.
especially if they're crawling on the lid.
But yeah, whatever you can find and use, it does not have to be a clear lid, but the container itself should be
I'm
transparent.
assuming that you shouldn't keep something in there too long because there wouldn't be a lot of air in there
Correct.
once you put the lid on.
Correct.
So it'd be
It's
for
just
a
for
short
observation
term.
purposes.
Okay. Okay.
And then release them when you're done looking at them.
Okay.
So to go with that, jars. canning jars work great.
Oh, yes.
And critter keepers, which just look for critter keepers, you'll find them.
Okay. They're actually called
there's
critter
a whole
keepers.
assortment of things out there. Some of them are little containers that have screen on them and a little door so you can put your specimen in. Some of them are larger plastic containers with vents for air.
Oh, wow.
And so they come in all different shapes and sizes and configurations. Those are handy if you want to keep something longer than just for observation.
Okay. Tell me about the canning jar you said, because
Canning
would that
jars
work?
work great because you have that ring that tightens the lid down. You don't want to use the canning lid.
I've often seen it with holes poked in it.
Yes, that's dangerous for the insects that you are keeping in there because they oftentimes will crawl up to the top of the jar and cut themselves.
Yeah.
And that's not good for them.
Okay.
So you want to use something that does not leave those sharp, jagged edges. Paper towels can work. You can tighten those down as long as it lets air pass through. That's what you want. You can also buy plastic screen that you can cut to the size of the opening for your jar, and then just tighten that down with the ring for the canning jar.
Sure.
And so those work very well. I know, because that's what we use. So those are great if you want to keep something longer term.
Like turning a caterpillar turning into a butterfly.
Yes.
You could potentially do
Yes.
that. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Something like that. Then this is a great tool. And you don't even have to bring it with you because you can get it when you're there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, what is this?
A stick.
Okay, what do you use a stick for?
Poking at things, moving things off the trail that you don't want on the trail, all sorts of things. Maybe there's things that you can't quite reach, but you can with the extension of a stick. You can reach it and bring it closer. Sticks can do a dual purpose as a walking stick if you find the right one.
True.
And when you are finished with your nature walk, put the stick back where you got it from.
Yeah. Multi-purpose.
Yes.
I'm not going to say disposable, but that's kind of,
Yes.
you
They come in different
Take-
shapes
borrow
and
it for a
sizes.
moment, put it
Find one
back.
that you like and take it with you.
that's a great tool.
So sticks are wonderful.
Now, do you haul all of this stuff with you? I mean, we talked about some things stay at home, but like you've got your bucket and your containers, and I could see, how does this
My
work
jars,
practically?
jars and critter keepers, I keep those at home.
Okay.
But plastic containers or even just those zip-top bags, you can keep several of those in a car very easily. A pocket knife I always have with me. Bucket and net, if you have room in your car just to leave them there all the time, leave them there. Because then they're always there for you. You don't have to remember to pack them.
I can see, well, what we did is had this little waterproof zip bag, like a tote bag, and we put nature studies and our nature notebooks in there, and then we had just a couple of field guides we actually took with us, and then some plastic bags, and, okay, I'm going to add to your list, you can tell me if this is necessary. A friend of mine would always take a blanket, an old
That
blanket.
can be a good thing.
To just put on the grass, and you can sit there while you're drawing or whatever.
There's also ones that they sell now that are cloth on one side, but then waterproof material on the other side,
Oh,
and they
nice.
fold up. I think they're some sort of a picnic blanket. We have friends that have them.
That's beautiful, because
And-
sometimes the grass is so wet.
Yes.
And then the other thing that my friend mentioned was hand wipes.
Yes.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yes.
Put that in the bag.
Now, we always have those in the car already.
Well, that
So
makes
they're
even more
already-
sense.
They're already there to use.
Because you're going to need them for more than just nature studies, so just keep them in the car.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
So, yes, those are good things to add, too.
I love all these ideas. Are there any other tools that you want to mention?
Yes. There are tools that you always have with you everywhere you go that are the most important to take with you.
Do tell.
Your eyes, your ears, your nose, your hands for touching things that are safe to touch.
Okay.
But ears, eyes, and nose, those are the ones that you're going to use the most. You can use those all the time when you're out in nature. They're always with you, and they're the most important nature study tools.
It seems like we're used to our eyes. Maybe we don't see everything we should see, though.
Not always.
We
There's
aren't
a
always
lot
observing.
out there to see.
But we tend to rely on our eyesight a lot in
Yes.
nature study. But I love how you're including ears and nose as
Yes.
well.
Learn to listen and smell just as much as you look when you are out in nature, because it will help you identify things, it will help you see more things, and it will help you, your nose can tell you all sorts of things, the flowers that are blooming. You can smell those, and they are fragrant. When you're out in the field and there's a lot of them blooming, you can smell them. You can distinguish between different ones also. But you can also smell the differences in the areas that you might walk through. If you're coming upon water, there will be a difference in the smell than if you are walking in the woods. So leaf litter, pine needles, or even just the pine trees, the scent that they give off, water, different types of water have different smells.
Oh, really?
So swamps and creeks and rivers will smell differently, lakes will smell differently than ponds. And so if you're using your nose to smell, you're going to start distinguishing those things. And sometimes you will know that there's an area coming up that might be a little marshy, you might have to walk through before you even get to it, so you can be prepared. But that's part of nature study, is using your eyes, your ears, and your nose.
And really, those are the only essential
Yes.
tools.
Yes.
Everything else, you can if you want to, but those are necessary.
Yes.
And as you said, they're always with you, so they're very convenient.
You don't have to remember to pack them.
Just to use them, that's
Yes.
all. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing your favorite tools. It's been very helpful. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We'll leave links in the show notes to those other episodes that we mentioned. See you next time.